Iceland is a country defined by water.
It's an island surrounded by water, with waterfalls pretty much everywhere you look, and a population that loves a good soak. So if you visit Iceland, you're probably going to get wet, most enjoyably at one of its many popular geothermal spas.
And if you do take a soak in one of the country's many pools, you're partaking in a historical pastime that dates back to the 10th century, a cultural tradition made possible by Iceland's incredibly unique geology.
You can also be swimming in the byproducts of renewable energy production. Yes, your spa treatment may be the wastewater that the government once labeled an environmental disaster. But as it turns out, that's actually a pretty good thing. On a visit to Iceland, you can bathe in historic and natural geothermal hot springs all over this country, as well as geothermally fed community pools and fancy spas like the world-famous Blue Lagoon.
And we can thank Iceland's geological landscape for all that vacation and relaxing.
Iceland is uniquely located over a volcanic hotspot and at a divergent plate boundary where the Eurasia and North American tectonic plates are spreading apart.
This produces abundant volcanic activity, creating an ideal environment for geothermal energy.
And Iceland excels at capitalizing on this natural resource, with 100% of the electricity in its grid coming from renewable resources like hydrothermal or geothermal energy. But there was a bit of a learning curve for them to get there.
You see, there was a time when Iceland's electricity came from fossil fuels.
Let's take you back to 1973 and the international energy crisis. Now, this was a time of worldwide disruption in the energy market, causing volatile and skyrocketing oil prices that pushed Iceland to, quite sensibly, reconsider its energy infrastructure away from coal and oil and towards domestically available resources.
One of these renewable resources was an abundance of subsurface water, heated all by geothermal activity.
Now, the government saw this geothermal energy as an opportunity, and they promoted enterprises to capture and extract this resource for use, including the development of centralized government energy production networks. As a result, in 1976, the Svartsengi geothermal plant opened, becoming the first in the world to supply both electrical power generation and hot water for heating. And all this is from an endless supply of water and hot rocks right underneath everyone's feet.
And this plant is located right next to the world-famous wonder that is the Blue Lagoon Spa.
This is a major clue, dear viewers, because you see the water for this spa comes directly from the waste generated by that power plant. A great example of using the natural resources and then also using the waste associated with the power production from those natural resources.
Talk about recycling, but this wasn't always the plan, at least not when the plant opened.
Just looking at the water at the Blue Lagoon, you can see that it has a unique geochemical composition. It's kind of cloudy white with dissolved substances like silica, and those dissolved substances are really good for the skin and really bad for the plumbing.
So, you cannot just send this water down a pipeline to be used directly for heating houses, which is a major energy need in a place like Iceland.
Instead, the geothermal liquid that gets pumped up from the boreholes in the ground is first used to turn turbines that generate electricity, and then used to heat fresh water that can be safely sent through pipelines for use in homes, for heating, for community pools to make the water nice and warm and toasty, and even under sidewalks to help melt the snow, which sounds just fantastically awesome. Self-heating sidewalks, no needing to shovel. It's like futuristic landscape, people.
But once the water has offered its heat for these purposes, it is now a waste product needing disposal. And that's where the spa comes in.
You see, when the plant first opened, that wastewater was pumped into the surrounding lava field. Now, those rocks are permeable, so the water should have just sunk down and through the rocks and made its way back down into the earth, eventually to be heated again.
But there was a lot of water being pumped. And remember, it's full of silica, which is basically sand. And as it turns out, that clogged up the pores in the rocks, causing a lagoon to form.
Which at first seemed like a major problem, but not for long, because remember, Icelanders love a pool. So at some point, folks started soaking in these lagoons, because why not soak in the weirdly white water that comes from the power plant? I guess. Not here, son. No, not here. You'll grow another head. But it wasn't until 1981 that a local named Valur Margerson tried it out as a treatment for the skin disease psoriasis.
Turns out, it helped. He called the place Blue Lagoon, a name that clearly stuck around, and development took off.
So now, a place that started as a solution to an international energy crisis is one of the 25 wonders of the world, with a spa and a hotel and a restaurant and a very hefty price tag if you want to visit. Unfortunately, we also should mention that the very active earth that's in this area that's responsible for all that wonderful geothermal energy is also causing dangerous magma intrusions that's endangering the power plant, the spa, and most importantly, the people who live in this area.
A powerful reminder of this active and somewhat dangerously amazing land of fire and ice.
But if you're lucky enough to ever enjoy a soak in the Blue Lagoon, remember the fascinating and complex journey that water took to get to you, from deep within the earth, through the power plant, and finally out into the lagoon of this beautiful, luxurious spa.
A story worth soaking in.
Spa.
Spa humbug.
Spa humbug?